Hey guys, I'm your host Smitha Gunturi and welcome to Journey Podcast, your weekly podcast on transformational journeys. Hope you guys enjoy. Hey guys, welcome to Journey Podcast. This is your host Smitha. As the title said, I wanted to talk about what has happened this past year. First off, I have to say, what a ride. And gratitude is the word that I feel for myself for the journey that I have started. It's a funny thing about life. Once you begin to take note of things that you are grateful for, you will begin to lose sight of things that you lack. And that's exactly what happened to me. I want to talk about why did I start this journey, the people I met on this journey, my learning curve, my story and my work past few years as a women advocate, and the conversation with my son made me to actually start this journey for myself. While I'm trying to get other stories into picture, I was able to find myself a lot in this journey. What have I learned? Technically, I have learned a lot, of course, learning about how to make this podcast, editing, technical terms behind all of it, publishing it myself, trying to use more social media, etc. Coming to that part, the podcasting journey, I could say, what have I learned, or like what was my observations about the podcasting journey? I have met a lot of incredible people in this journey, to be honest. I was in love with most of the people, and the way we are connected today, even it's like more than a family today. And again, one word, gratitude. And I'm really, really grateful to meet all these people. And some of them are even in touch with me in my day-to-day life. We text each other, we call, we are, as I said, like a family. If I have to professionally talk about the podcasting journey, not the personal growth or personal learning that I have done, there are ups and downs. Sometimes the technologies did not work. Sometimes the people are not so friendly, I can say. It's nothing wrong. Example, you scheduled a recording. Yes, cancellations always happen. It might be from my end, it might be from their end as well, because things happen. We are all humans, which I definitely and totally understand. But certain things are a little time consuming, I can say. I was a little disappointed, very little disappointed, but I still wanted to share that because these things happen. And I wanted you guys to understand how much work is actually going behind the scenes for me to get this podcasting out. The people that are in this field might definitely understand how much work it is. It is just not like, yeah, I'm taking a scheduled recording and publishing it. Schedules should definitely work out for me as a host and for the guests, whoever are willing to be participating in the show. The minute I understand that somebody is out there that I can get them as a guest, I reach them out personally first, understand their story, understand if they have any questions that they don't want to be touched, and if they're not comfortable enough to talk about any subject, I make a note of it. And I try definitely not to go around those topics at all. If the guest says like, yes, they're perfectly fine with anything and they're like open book, I'm fine. But before we even get to that part, we have to talk to each other a little more to get that comfortability, to understand what each other's frequency is and what level of information that I, as a host, getting from them and what their story is that really aligned with what my reasoning of creating this podcast at all. As you all know so far, if you're following this show, I picked up very few topics that are really close to me because I have gone through all of them myself. So when I'm talking to the guests or when I am producing these things, I know the sensitivity behind those topics, the topics that I have covered so far. When I'm talking to a guest, I wanted to make sense and be really sensitive in asking questions or even covering the story. I just don't want to get a story for the sake of getting. As I mentioned, like there are millions of transformational journeys that I have heard, and I'm covering very few here. There are very few stories, I believe like 3 or 4 stories that I have covered, which do not fall onto these categories. One such story was my last episode, last week. I did not publish any episode, being it a Christmas Eve. I don't want to really yet do an episode, but previous episode with Eric Allen, the reason I wanted to take that subject, though it has nothing to do with me, with my subjects actually, but I wanted to make that episode because I did write that in that introduction there, as I saw the person, their situation from the perspective of my son. I was domestically abused a lot. When Eric mentioned that he has seen his mother beaten up by his stepdad, I really wanted to understand as a child, what was his thought process? What is he thinking at the time, so on and so forth. So I picked up that topic, being it so close to me, to really understand. There were a couple of situations where I did do the recording. I was about to publish. Every time before I published an episode, I reach out to the guest. I tell them like, hey, your episode is going to come on so and so date, so watch out for it. Whether they wanted to publish or not, I don't know. There are a lot of guests that did not even care about looking at their own episodes. My humble request, I'm not opposing for anything, but again, my humble request for such guests is, if you don't believe in what you're talking about, please don't do it. There are guests, right before I mentioned them, I'm going to publish their episode, they said that they don't want it to be published. From some people, I did not even hear the reason or anything. Of course, it's them, it's their decision. End of the day, it is them talking about whatever they have gone through, or like what they wanted to really make other people to listen. I agree, but at the same time, the minute when you are done with the episode, or the minute you are done with the recording, you know whether you are satisfied with it or not. If you are not satisfied, please raise your voice there itself and say like, hey, I'm not satisfied, let's do another recording. Or else tell them like, hey, I'm not satisfied, this is not the time, so just cancel it. The reason why I wanted to tell that is, for me to do the pre-recording sessions or talking with everybody take almost hours to get that scheduled. Again, for the recording, the same way. We have to really like make arrangements. I have a day job, as everybody know. I have to really look for my schedules properly and then actually schedule for recording. Once the recording is done, as a guest, your portion into that specific episode is done. But for me as a host, it is just getting started. I have to sit with editing, listening to your each and every word to make sense out of it and to really understand on your message, whether your message is getting passed to the audience in a correct sense or not. So I listen to it many times while I'm editing, after editing. Once I edit, posting to pick a right title for your episode, to write the complete descriptions and notes, show notes that I have to publish, everything to get ready. Again, it is time consuming. Everybody that does podcasting here, you might really understand what it is. Again, once it is ready to publish the episode in all the medias, to post that specific episode in different Facebook groups, for example, you have no idea how much time we really put into that. For me, at least, I would say, if I have to give a baseline estimation, I would say it will take around 12 to 15 hours per episode. Some might take even more. There are guests who spoke to me for about 5 hours straight. So please, at least like when you understand the episode did not come to your expectations, tell us there. We are fine with it. If you can do another episode, let's do it. If you think that, yeah, you don't want to talk about it, or you're not ready yet, that's okay too. It's your life, it's your story. So yeah, nobody's going to say anything there. But please do understand. At least that is what the high level podcasting journey story. My personal growth, to be honest, I have a lot of fears that always kind of haunt me, I can say. Fear of people, in a way about how would they judge me. Let's say, for example, starting this podcast itself. I'm never a person being in front of a camera. I hardly even take pictures. Per year, I might have 1 or 2 pictures, even as a selfie or anything. I'm not that great. I'm not that good at all. Having those fears to come and sit before the camera today and to really talk about all these things, I would say, like, yes, I started from here, and I'm like, I became really good at it now, and I'm really happy for it. I'm able to do it. Conquering fear of judgment is not easy. It's not about me sitting before the camera. Even today, I believe if somebody is looking at this, they might start commenting or getting into judgment about the way I speak. I'm not born and brought up here. English is not my first language. And the second biggest fear that I had was the divorce. For our culture and tradition, divorce is a big no-no. To be honest, up until last week, my mom never told anybody that I'm a single. She never wanted to say that. She feels I don't know. Last week is the first time she said, I spoke to somebody and they asked me what your husband was doing. And for the very first time, I told them, yeah, you are living as a single. That took a lot of courage for her, which I definitely understand. She's also carried away with all these judgmental facts, I believe. So she never spoke about it so far. My grandma, being an 80-year-old woman, she said, are you happy? I said, yes. Her only sentence, which blew my mind, was, as long as you are happy, you are not entitled to answer anyone in your life. Be happy, stay strong, take care of your son. That's all she said. It just blew my mind. I turned to my mom and I asked, like, are you listening to your own mom, how she is talking? And I don't understand why you're not able to take me as a divorcee. And mind you, it's been more than 13, 14 years that I'm a single mom. Last but not least, the subject that I never spoke to anybody was my child abuse. Thankfully, my son gave that breakthrough to me. He spoke to me. He gave that confidence. He gave that strength for me to really open up. He's my rock, I can say. And the people I met in this journey, such incredible people, made me to learn a lot. How to be compassionate, to be kind enough for yourself, to have that self-love. Thank you so much. See you next year. Happy New Year. Bye. Okay, thank you for tuning in, and you can find me on all the socials at Smitha Gunturi and the show notes for any resources mentioned. See you next week. Take care.